Hello, everybody, and welcome back to your weekly Albumholics Anonymous episode. My name is Aurelio, and I have an addiction to albums.
My name is Andy, and I also share that addiction, and it's crippling, but hey, we're taking it one day, 1 week at a time.
1 week at a time, yes. This week, as we mentioned last week, if you listened, we are doing Fastball, a band that started in their late 90s.
Mid to late 90s.
Mid to late 90s, yeah. They are a pop rock / kind of hard rock band. So,
Yeah, for the most part, I would say.
yeah. Just a little forewarning. Fastball was actually my top band of 2020
Ooh.
on Spotify. And they were the reason that I wanted to do an episode on them. I actually only know most of their big singles. So I never really listened to anything else. So it was kind of a surprise listening to their other albums. And
Yeah, like you said, I really knew their two big hits. There was two other songs they had that were hits that I didn't realize were Fastball.
mm-hmm.
Probably because they had two different singers.
Yes.
I didn't realize that before.
Yep.
But yeah, like the two songs I heard, and I was like, oh my god, this is Fastball? Surprising enough, but yeah, they were an interesting band.
Yeah, I would say they were an interesting band. I was pleasantly surprised.
Now, when you say they're your top band on Spotify, was that just because you listened to like their 4 hits a ton?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The 4 hits I will get in, and I will say what they were as we go through these albums. But towards the later half of 2020, when I found these guys and started listening to them, it was daily, multiple times a day, pretty much. So,
what ranking were you in the Fastball listener community?
I don't remember. I was trying to look for that yesterday.
Yeah.
Before.
Because my top one was Rise Against,
Yeah.
and I was the 0.05% top listener of Rise
listeners.
Against.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing you did, right? Like, I want to listen to some music every day. Just some good rock, and I turned on Rise Against.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so should we get started?
Yeah.
All right, their first album here from 1996, Make Your Mom Proud.
They had some interesting album titles.
Yes, they had some interesting album titles.
I was kind of surprised by a few of them.
What did you give this album, Andy?
I gave this album a B.
Okay.
The highlights for me: Are You Ready for the Fallout, Lender, and Telephone Calls.
Okay.
But the thing that really got me excited about this album, and I guess the future, well, not the future, I guess a little bit of the future, but going forward, listen to Fastball, was that this was a true, like, debut album. Like, it was a rough album. You could tell in a lot of the songs, you could see the promise that got them signed from playing bars and clubs, probably.
Yes.
And a lot of the songs sounded like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were just written and played in clubs and bars as like a show. They weren't big name artists yet. It wasn't a highly polished album. But you could see in a lot of the little songs here and there that promise that it was like an A&R person would have seen and said, hey, I think these
guys could be big.
Could be big. And if not, maybe they're just middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Also on top of that, though, saying it's kind of rough, a lot of the songs were just kind of all over the place to me.
Okay.
Some had good moments, some had low moments. And I think this is going to be a theme. This next point I'm going to bring up, personally to me, is that a lot of the songs weren't really deep. They were just kind of shallow pop rock songs, right?
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just something I'd noticed. And to me, Boomerang and Nothing, those are songs that were great examples of songs that had like the right stuff to be hits, but they were just missing a few things.
Yeah.
And a lot of those, in those two songs, to me, I think it was the chorus, and they really, the first album seems to bank really hard on repetitive lyrics.
Yes.
Like, there was a lot of points where they just repeated the same thing, or the chorus was just that repeated.
Yeah, a lot of these songs are really short, so.
Yeah, this was 30 minutes, in the low 30 minutes, I think. But, like, that's what it was, though. It was just a band that was not new to being a band, but, like, they got from just playing local shows, local areas and
Mm-hmm.
events, and that promoters came and seen them, or A&R and record labels, and you could just see that in this album that they weren't polished yet, and that's kind of cool because you don't find that often in bands,
Correct. Yeah.
or like especially if you're like someone like us who listens to singles. A lot of the big singles for bands like that, they have really polished first albums
Mm-hmm.
because they have big songs on
Studio
their first
backings.
albums. Yeah.
Yeah.
This wasn't that though. This was, I mean, you could when you listen to this album, you can see this in like an early '90s, just local club.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean that's pretty much what I got. It was a rough album. I gave it a B because they weren't bad, and the songs I liked they were pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But just thought it was kind of a little above average album.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I also gave this album a B. I gave it a B plus though. As you were saying, this is definitely an album that you can tell was something that you could see these guys playing live, just jamming out.
Mm-hmm.
And they chose their best songs that they thought would make a great album. They put them together.
Yeah, for sure.
I really did like it as a first album for these guys. I had fun listening to it. Some of the lyrics were a little kind of weird here and there, especially on Eater. I thought that one was kind of
that was
kind of funny. It's like I'm gonna fatten you up and wolf you down. Like, is he trying to? I don't know what they're trying to do there, but I enjoyed listening to this album. There were a couple songs that I did end up adding to my late playlist. I liked Make Your Mama Proud and Are You Ready for the Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Are You Mama Proud just because of the lyrics. It was like talking about, a person, thinking about committing suicide. And he's like, well, don't do that. Try to live your life and, try to do something else to make your mama proud,
It definitely had, this had some good lyrics. You could see like I said, you could see the potential of songwriters.
Yeah.
There was good moments. But yeah. I didn't have that as a highlight, but it was a pretty decent song.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, my top song on this album was Are You Ready for the Fallout? I just really like the chorus and melody on that.
I know that was the one, that was, I think, the only song they sent off this album to try and be a single.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I understand why I listened to it, that it's, it is the best song because it was
set to be a single.
Yeah, it was set to be a single. So
yeah.
No, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a pretty good, album for a first try. But yeah, anything else?
No, I mean that pretty much covers up that. Like I said, you can see a lot of the promise and why
of
they
what's
got
gonna
signed.
come on their next album. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, with that, their next album
is All the Pain Money Can Buy. Again,
I actually really like that title.
Yeah.
Like I you hear the things or hear the saying that money can't buy happiness and things like that. In this world, it's you can have a lot of money and you can buy happiness, but it also comes with a lot of complications and things.
Yeah. I like this album title as a title if it was the next album after this.
Okay.
Because this is their big album, right?
Yeah, this is their
this is their
biggest
own
album.
This album goes platinum. This has, if you know a Fastball song,
it's probably
there's a pretty
on
good
this
chance. There's a 75% chance
it's on this
album.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like that as like, 'cause that's their peak. I like that title a lot more as the next album where they've, their whole life has changed after this album. Right, yeah.
Okay.
And then, if you're going to write, and a lot of the songs they write, when we'll get in this, are personal songs, right? And I like that title a lot. I just like it as the next album. And I mean, obviously, this is the hindsight's 2020 thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't write this album
knowing that this is going to be big,
I'm going to sell 1 million copies of this album.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it is a good, you're right. I agree with what you said about the title. And it's kind of unfair to me to hindsight 2020 a title name. But
yeah.
I think if this was the third album title name, that'd have been perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you think of the album overall?
So I gave this album an A+.
Ooh.
I really did enjoy this album. I think that it deserves, going platinum and the singles that it has. My favorite song off this album is actually Fire Escape, which I don't think is one of their huge singles. It is one,
Yeah, it's
but it's not their top 2 or top 3, I don't
no,
think.
it's not
So,
top two. I think it's even with the third and fourth, or even no,
yeah.
the other two off this album are definitely
Yeah.
the biggest.
Which my other songs on here, The Way, obviously.
Yeah.
That's their biggest hit. Out of My Head. And I liked Sooner or Later also. I thought that was a good one. It's kind of reminded me of a friend that we both mutually have who, when he told us the story of him trying to get with his wife, he is very persistent, did not give up. And, this song is kind of like, I'm going to get you sooner or later. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to keep trying until, I get you. So,
I mean, those are just good, relatable songs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like either somebody, or you yourself for that. And those are the best songs, I think, if you can relate to them in some way.
yeah.
And we kind of touched on that in Wolfmother, right? Like,
Yeah. Making songs that we can draw experiences from,
yeah. But sometimes if you're writing songs that you think people can relate to, it doesn't always work out. And which is the case with a few of the Wolfmother songs we talked about in that episode. But I thought there was a lot of songs that Fastball wrote that, you could relate to in some way. And they were just good, even if they weren't the hits. But
yeah. I really like the lyrics that this band does throughout their albums, a lot of relatable things. So, but yeah, my favorite song, Fire Escape, I pretty much listen to that almost daily still,
Fair enough. Yeah.
But what did you think of this album, Andy?
I gave this album it's a B again.
Okay.
I mean, obviously the strongest songs of this album,
Mm-hmm.
the three biggest. But like you said, with Fire Escape not being like one of their bigger hits, I knew Fire Escape the song.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it was by Fastball.
Oh, okay.
So when it came on, I was like, oh, wow, this is Fastball.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't even know the title of the song, but I knew the song. I think most people would know that song without knowing it's Fastball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to spend the whole time talking about The Way and Out of My Head, because those are the strongest songs. Those have been beat to death. Great songs, though. Those were the only two songs from Fastball that I had on a playlist before, and I still do.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't add any other songs to any playlist, but if I did, it would be Fire Escape or the one off the next album.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting with this album how the two singers, which I remember their name off the top of my head.
The singer and bassist, Tony Scalzo, and the other singer is Miles Zuniga.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting in this album how
they switched off.
Yep. Every song was a little bit different.
Yeah, I think it was every other song. It started with Tony, and then it went.
I think the first song is a few people.
No, on The Way, it's mostly Tony. It sings,
is it?
Yeah.
Because I swear it was somebody / somebody, and then every other song was one of them.
Oh,
but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't have Wikipedia open in front of me. I like Better Than It Was.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a pretty solid song with some good lyrics. And I touched on this from the first album, is that some of the songs are just missing a piece. Which Way to the Top? I couldn't place it. I listened to that song a few times in a row, and I liked it, but it was just every time I listened to it, it felt like it was missing something. And still to this day, I can't put my finger on it. But I think that song could be really good. I mean, it's not like they're going to go back and record it. I think that song could have been really good.
If it had just a little bit
that
more.
list, I think that could have been another big song off that. The songwriting definitely improved on this album.
Definitely, yeah.
It's just the songs that I didn't name, I didn't care for that much.
Okay.
So most of this grade with a B is held up by 3 songs.
The hits.
The big 3.
Yeah.
And then it's floated a little bit by the ones I did like. But the songs I didn't like are kind of reminiscent, or the songs I didn't name, which is most of the album, is reminiscent of why, and things I'll touch on for the next few albums, of
just missing something?
It's just the band in general is missing something to me.
Okay.
But I mean, that's pretty much all I really got about that song, or that album. It was good.
Yes.
The hits are great. I see why it went platinum.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how often... You don't really find artists Fastball is kind of considered a one-hit wonder, right? Which is weird for
one album wonder.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's still weird
Yeah.
because you still kind of count that as a one-hit wonder, but they're not really because they had 3 songs off one album. They do good.
That do really well, yeah.
And you don't really find that much on one album. But it was a good album overall. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so
Again,
did I.
those 3 songs, really like. Rest of the album was alright. I
Yeah.
don't want to give it away just on one album, but I mean, you got anything else for that album?
No.
No, yeah. So that brings us to the next album, which is The Harsh Light of Day.
Yeah, Harsh Light of Day in the year 2000. I gave this album a C. Coming off of the success of the second album, listening to all the great songs that they had on there, I really only liked one song on this album, and it was You're an Ocean.
Yeah, which I think most people would.
Yeah, I think that's one of their biggest hits too. Definitely the piano part in that, the singing, I think is all the whole part of that song is great. It's definitely a daily listen for me almost. But yeah, I didn't feel a lot of connection with like the rest of the songs on this album. They were okay to listen to. I wasn't getting bored or anything, or I didn't skip any songs, but the only song that I added that was part of my playlist is You're an Ocean.
Yeah, which I think is fair.
Yeah.
I also gave this album a C.
Okay.
And it's funny that you touch on the piano parts of You're an Ocean, because I thought it was really cool that they had Billy Preston. And I know you don't know who Billy Preston is.
I've heard of him before.
For most people that are going to know Billy Preston, he played with and on, I mean, he's known for other things too, the final Beatles album. A lot to like, he was considered to some people the 5th Beatle.
Oh, okay.
And if you go watch their last concert, which is so cool, on the rooftop in London, he's there playing with them.
Okay.
And you can watch, he has this really cool, I forget what song it is, but at George, Concert for George, which is after George Harrison dies, he gets to play, I think it's he plays My Sweet Lord by George Harrison, and it's just cool. Billy Preston's awesome. Except for the weird Beatles movie he was in where it was Billy Preston and the Bee Gees sing the Beatles. I saw it on HBO once when I was young. It was really weird. It's like some real low-budget 70s, 80s movie. But I thought that was just cool,
Yeah, they got like a big name.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big name.
Yeah.
He wasn't a Beatle, but yeah, I mean, if you know who he is, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I didn't realize You're an Ocean was by Fastball either.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, okay.
That and Fire Escape. Did not realize they were by Fastball.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Fastball is, I mean, it's a band, and they had a bunch of big 90s songs, right? But I still think most people wouldn't be able to tell you the band that played on those songs. They might know out of your head and the way, but I doubt anybody could tell you they were by
Fastball.
And
Yeah,
that's how I felt about, like, obviously Fire Escape and You're an Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I really love in this album was that transition between the first and the second song.
Oh, yes.
It just bled right in.
I know.
I went back and listened to that a few times. I was like, oh, that's just
perfect.
Sick. Yeah, it's perfect. But I don't really have that much out. Like I said, we both gave it a C. I was thinking about our ranking scales when I was doing this. Like, it's D to F, right? So that's 5. Yeah.
Or
D to F. D to S.
Yeah,
F.
D to S, not D to F. So that's
letters
5.
are hard, but that's 5, right? So you would think like B would be a middle of the road album, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. To me, I have a hard time. To me, that's above average. C to me is
kind of
like an average, and then D is like this album. Just there was nothing on here that I liked about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought there was tighter songwriting on this album, but man, most of the songs just
forgettable.
Just forgettable. They just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
So I mean, I gave it a C.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
It's just, some of the lyrics were pretty nice.
Yeah.
And I think that's a strong suit of Fastball in my opinion. Even though they're a little simpler, I think they get their point across, like real quick.
Yeah.
In the songs. But yeah, it's just kind of forgettable. I really didn't like.
It's hard too, right? Because I mean, it's a follow to a platinum album.
Yeah.
Like that's a hard thing to do, like just in general. But I don't know. I still would have expected more, right?
True. Yeah.
But
I know. I do think that they experimented a little bit more on this album,
yeah,
taking it away from the pop rocky, trying to do different instruments here, there, different melodies and things like that. So I think that might have caused some of the I don't want to say like confusion on the album, but it just didn't.
it didn't flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get you, and I feel like that comes too when you have two songwriters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're both writing songs, and they're not always gonna flow together.
Mm-hmm.
Because it feels more like it's not just like a Lennon and McCartney type where they write the song together. It feels more like they show up with a handful of songs they wrote and then put them on an album.
And see which ones, yeah.
I don't know if that is, but that's the way it feels with the albums that flow. I know they try to go like one to the other, and you kind of. It would be better if they did if they took each CD and did like a. You can't see me, I'm doing air quotes, 2 CD type thing where the first
one
half
singer,
of it is the first, like, if it's 16 songs, if it was 10 songs,
five
by
one,
one, and then 5 by the next 5 by the next. I mean, it's
Mhm.
not how you do an album, but I think that would have been better than every other one, or something like that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah, I don't got anything else for that.
I don't really either.
So moving on to
All right,
next album, Keep Your Wig On.
Keep Your Wig On, 2004. What did you think of this album?
I guess album another C.
All right.
And this album to me, this album sounds really commercialized.
Okay.
And it sounds like a lot of other 2000s alt rock things you would find on the radio. I mean, I only really had 2 highlights. I Get High and Till I Get It Right.
Okay.
I don't really have they just kind of stuck out to me. It's like, this sounds pretty decent on like a first listen to. Man, and this is the first album that made me think of this. And kind of looking back with the Billy Preston thing, and then looking forward to the next few albums, I wouldn't be surprised if the biggest influence of these two guys is the Beatles.
Yeah.
There is some parts that sound almost like they ripped off the Beatles for some song. There was one song, I don't remember the name, and I didn't write it down because I was listening to it at work. But I swear, the same cadence singing style is a chorus to a Beatles song.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I've actually I was doing some history on this band, and there was a couple album reviews that said that Fastball was the Beatles of like the 90s. They drew the comparison, like they weren't necessarily as successful,
right?
But they had some of the same writing style in instrumentation and things like that. So
yeah, I agree with that. The thing is, and we'll touch on this in the next few albums more so, the Beatles, I mean, obviously Lennon and McCartney are just an amazing songwriting duo. I mean, it seems like all McCartney does is write hits. George Harrison,
yeah, for real,
an amazing songwriter. But they didn't have the same song every time, right? It wasn't just a shallow pop rock song. They had those, and they were good, but they also had songs that were deeper, or songs that were just kind of silly and fun. Whereas I feel like Fastball, where they were trying to be like a Beatles-esque band, they missed that point and just kind of went for the shallow pop rock, slow rock, soft rock jams.
Yeah.
And there wasn't enough variety in a lot of the albums, and I'm going to touch on that more as we get to each album, and that's just what didn't do it for me.
Okay.
I don't think the songs were bad. I just don't think there was enough variety to them. And I hate to be the guy that's like, everything sounds commercialized. But that's what this album sounded like to me. Like, hey, our last album didn't do so hot.
Let's try to...
And, like, maybe they didn't hit the studio right and they were listening to the radio at the time. They're like, man, a lot of bands kind of have this sound on the radio, And then that kind of creeps in your head subconsciously.
Yeah.
And then when you hit the studio and you've got that going, hey, because this is like 2004, right?
Yeah, 2004 years after their previous album.
Yeah. You hear that and that creeps in your head like, hey, we want to do a better, better album that gets back on the radio, you know? And then you kind of hear what's on the radio. So you got that, I don't want to say desperation, but that drive to get back in. And then you hear this is what's playing on the radio. And then that kind of creeps into your songwriting. That's what I felt on this album.
Okay.
What did you think?
I gave this album a B plus, and I really like this album. I didn't like the last album, but I actually can get down with a lot of songs on this album. My standouts were Louie Louie and Drifting Away. I wasn't a fan of either of them when I first heard them, but I started listening to them actually earlier this morning. Like, I was just going through random songs from each album, just getting refreshers. And I listened to it too, and I was like, I actually really like these songs. And all day today, I have been listening to those two songs. Red Light is another one that I really liked in this song. It was kind of weird. It had like a mariachi sounding to it. It's a little funny there. I really like that song. I liked I Get High.
Yeah.
And I thought Perfect World was a good one, it had some good lyrics to it, stop complaining about everything that's wrong with your life and go do something about it,
Which is just great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I really like this album. My two standouts, Louie Louie and Drifting Away, I put those in my playlist right away.
Do you think that's because, well, I mean, Louie Louie is definitely like a ripoff of the other song. Do you think that the other one is also kind of a ripoff of the title Drift Away by Dobie Gray or whoever it was before that?
I haven't heard that song.
Oh, you've heard it. You just don't know it by name.
Maybe.
I'll play it for you after we're done here.
All right.
If most people know what it is. Also, I'm pretty sure Uncle Kracker covered it. Shout out to Uncle Kracker. We had a really good album, Double Wide.
Yeah.
We're not doing Uncle Kracker, but that's a pretty decent album.
Maybe someday.
I don't even know how many albums that man had. But I really love that album.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is an Uncle Kracker one, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised with this album. I was kind of expecting the band to have lived, they had those great hits with that second album, and then it kind of faded away. I thought they were going to fade away after that. But in my opinion, this is a strong, if this would have came after All the Pain That Money Can Buy, I think they would have been more successful.
Yeah, I can see that. My only disagreement with that, though, is just how this sounds like an album of its time.
Yeah.
I don't think this would have came out before just because of how it sounds to what was relevant at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. If this was that first album that made that sound, that became big in the early 2000s, yeah, you're right. This would have been big. But I don't think those two are interchangeable. Not that you're wrong.
Yeah.
But just an interesting thought point, like chicken and egg type thing. What came first? The sound or the time frame?
Yeah, that's true. So, I don't know. I really like this album. But, yeah, heading on to our next album here. 2009's Little White Lies. So I gave this album a C. Wasn't a huge fan of it. I think this song had some of their best lyrics.
This album?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or this, sorry. Yeah,
sorry, I didn't have any title. I was like, shit. Was that a song?
No, this album had some of their best lyrics just about life and, just things that, everybody can relate to. I just didn't really find a lot of really memorable songs. The only one that I put as a standout here was Rampart Street, mostly because I really like the lyrics on that song. But I just didn't really vibe with anything on here.
The more you keep talking about lyrics, the more I'm kind of realizing, like, looking back, is how, like, I listen to music. And I think I'm a pretty big, like, the lyrics need to be good for me to like a song.
Yeah.
But the way I listen to music first
song is good.
Is if the instruments catch me.
Yeah.
It's like there's got to be something in there that catches me. And I was kind of thinking about this on the way home the other day from work. Set the World Afire came on. And I was thinking about if I had never heard that song before, which is by Megadeth, if you don't know. But that opening riff and just that opening to it catches me before he even says any words.
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics to that song, let's be honest,
They're okay.
they're okay. It's a good song, but it's just a good song. But to me, the way I listen to music is if that catches me first, then I'm gonna pay more attention to the song as a whole. And that's the problem I had with a lot of these Fastball songs is I didn't get caught by the music.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a fault of me or that's a fault of listening to them at work as well. I don't think so. But it just, the more you were talking about it, the more it made me kind of look back and realize how I judge music on the first listen.
Yeah. And that's really how I judge music too. Usually within the first couple notes, I can kind of tell if I like a song or not. I'm not saying like I give up on a song,
right, it's not
10 seconds in, but
it's not judge a book by its cover situation.
Yeah, but if it grabs my attention, I'm definitely more focused on, the lyrics and all the instrumentation and everything like that. So, but I really tried to, listen to the lyrics because I wasn't really that fond of the songwriting, the musical side of it. Yeah. So I was like, all right, let's see what the lyrics are about. So I thought those were better than a lot of the, the songs on here. So
that's fair.
But,
I gave this album a D.
Oh, a D?
D. This album was rough.
I can understand.
I looked up some reviews for this album. And honestly, I was pretty shocked
at how good they were.
I was expecting everybody to be almost to what I thought, but they weren't. And I guess maybe that's just me. Maybe I don't like this genre as much. It's just, these songs don't do it for me.
Yeah.
A lot of them just felt like empty pop rock songs with
like no real soul.
Yeah, no soul, no emotion. And again, I can just see the influence of the Beatles in this album. I mean, I consider myself a bigger Beatles fan.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it's not, you need to do more than just rip off the Beatles, right? Like if you're going to take from them, you need to add something to it too. And I just felt like none of these songs did that. I just felt like they were listening to the Beatles, or they were a huge influence, and they're like, man, I really like the Beatles do this. And so they just kind of copy that in without any, like,
trying to make it their own.
Yeah, it's just, this worked for the Beatles. I want to make this work for me. And I think you find that with a lot of bands too, right? But yeah, this album to me, just, I didn't have any highlight songs. I didn't have any songs I enjoyed.
Yeah.
I think this is the album I was listening to when you came up to me at work.
And
I was like, I don't know if I want to listen to the rest of these. And I was like, I'm going to.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, this album's not even that long, but it felt long. Yeah. That's just how I felt on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Just, album's not for me.
Yeah. You keep mentioning the Beatles, and Andy, you're a huge Beatles fan. I personally...
You couldn't tell from my room with two Beatles posters.
Yeah, I personally have really never listened to a lot of the Beatles, so I know maybe a couple songs here or there, but definitely not as much as you. So if we ever do the Beatles,
which we will someday,
it'll be interesting. I'm going to try to come back and try to draw some parallels between this band and them. So
yeah, that'd be a great idea, especially if you like this band a lot. You can see where they come from. Maybe from being a bigger fan of this band can get, maybe like their songs a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Beatles are a great band too. If for somehow you haven't checked out the Beatles,
check them out.
Check them out.
Yeah. But all right, on to the next album here, Step Into the Light. There was a bit of a break here between the band. This one came out in 2017. I gave this album a C+.
C+.
I thought it was a good album, better than their last one. I actually liked a couple songs on this album. I Will Never Let You Down is actually on one of my rock playlists. I really like that song.
Do you have... I've had this conversation with multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have separate playlists for all your music, or do you have one giant playlist? And do you believe you can have one giant playlist?
I So on Spotify, I have separate playlists for each type of genre. Metal,
Mm-hmm.
rap, and hip hop, and you know my rock and whatever pop songs or whatever songs. Um, when I'm in my car, I listen to my iPod, and it is just a giant cluster of everything. And I like that because you never know what you're gonna get next. All the different varying genres. Um, when I'm listening to Spotify, I try to listen to something more singular. Like I just want to listen to metal. I just want to listen to rock. I just want to listen to rap or something like
I
that.
get
So
it. No, I'm big. It's just one big playlist. You get that variety, and I think that's a lot of what I haven't liked that much about Fastball is you don't get that variety a lot of times.
okay,
To kind of tie it into what we were talking about, but no, I believe you can have one giant playlist. I also have smaller playlists, but
yeah,
they're more specialized to artists.
okay, yeah. Like
I
I
have
know you have
one.
for random access memories. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
just
have one whole playlist that's our next week's artist,
mm-hmm.
Daft Punk. It's just every song by Daft Punk. Um, yeah, I have Random Acts Memories, which I've listened to about 450 times.
Probably more,
Probably
honestly.
more, honestly. Madman Across the Water, probably listened to that a couple hundred times.
Mm-hmm.
I have just a Slayer playlist. I don't have like just a rock or
Yeah,
if I want to listen to something specialized, I have that, or it's just Spotify curated playlist. I just had somebody who once told me that
you can't
you
have
can't
a
have
giant...
one, and it's bugged me forever. And then now it's like a starter question. I talk to anybody about music. It's like how are your playlists sorted?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do like the giant playlists. Just having all that random. You never really know what you're gonna get next. I like that kind of excitement
The
there.
only problem with that though is I find that sometimes you spend more time skipping songs than you do actually listening to the music you have in front of you. Well, anyways, back to this album.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I really liked "I Will Never Let You Down," and my other song I liked was "Step Into the Light." I just thought it was kind of a slow melodic song that liked the melody to it mostly. So, but other than that, it was just okay. I didn't really. I mean, the lyrics really didn't stand out to me. Pretty much all the comments that I have on most of these songs are just kind of like, it was okay. Wasn't bad. It's just the only song I'd actually put on my playlist is "I Will Never Let You Down." I really like that song. So, what about you, Andy?
I wish they would have stepped a little farther into the light. I gave this album a C.
Okay.
I mean, I just kind of have down that it's just another boring commercial rock album. And I don't think these songs are poorly written or anything. In fact, I mean, honestly, like from a songwriting perspective, they're pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, I didn't have any
standout
songs. And there wasn't really any risk to these songs. Like, they were just
really
safe,
try anything
solid
new
songs. And a lot of the later Fastball albums, they're slow. And they're all slow.
Yeah.
And it's just a change from earlier where they played more genres of rock.
Yeah.
But this just seems slow.
Soft rock.
And I do not like slow
soft
rock. I mean, I like some songs that you would put in the slow soft rock category. But every song on an album to me can't be slow soft rock.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just going to go insane saying slow soft rock over and over. But that's what this album is to me. It's just a middle of the road great album to me. I really don't have that much to say. It's just kind of a boring, again, commercial rock album with no risk. Like, hey, maybe some of these songs will chart and
maybe
hit the album. Maybe they won't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't have. It's just kind of all I really got about that album.
Yeah, I do agree that a lot of it just felt safe.
Yeah.
Nothing really stood out. So, but all right, on to their next album here, "The Help Machine," from 2019. What did you think, Andy?
I gave it a C. It's really the same thing. It could be a double album with the last one to me, to be honest. Honestly, all the things I have written down, I realized I just talked about for the last album.
Yeah.
I mean, I really feel like as a band, they did a hard change in sound from their big album.
Mm-hmm.
You know? All the Pain Money Can Buy.
Which, to be fair, at this point was almost 20 years ago.
Sure. But, I mean, there's bands that have released albums 20 years after a big album.
And they still have the same energy.
They still have the same energy. I mean, Chili Peppers are a great example.
That's true.
I mean, I think those guys just have immortal energy, but I mean, the Stones are still going 7,500 years after they've released their first album. But it's just their whole sound changed to a slower, adult contemporary. Like, I feel like I could go to some upscale bar
and you can hear these guys playing.
And I can hear these guys playing. It'd be all white people as far as the eye can see. You know? You can picture it now. I think everybody listening to this can picture that upscale bar with nothing but white people. Let's be. I mean, as a white person, I feel like I'm allowed to say that. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Yeah.
But I say that because I feel like early Fastball would just be in like a college bar playing.
Yeah.
Like they sound like a bar band, and that's a good thing. That was a good sounding. That's why most of their albums at the beginning got B's. Not deep songwriting. But that's
they were more fun.
But it changed, and you know, again, maybe you're right. Maybe it's because they got older. But it feels like they're playing in a whole different tier of bar. You know?
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like the guy, like every Metallica album or fan you ever met is like, the early stuff's the best stuff. Everything after the Black Album sucks. And then you get the guys like, everything, including the Black Album, sucks.
Yeah.
But to me, that's just what this band is. Their early stuff is their best stuff.
I do agree. Yeah, I really like their first album, really like their second album. Their third album, not so much, but their fourth album, I really liked. And then after that, I think that's when their tone, songwriting, and everything changed, and it just kind of got to a standstill.
Like, I don't think they're bad songwriters.
Me neither.
I think they were very good songwriters, and I think this is the first band to me where it's just the genre they play is not a genre I sit down and listen to, so it's just going to score lower to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's wrong. I mean, I think that's just keeping it 100, right? Like,
yeah, good
band, not for me. What did you think of this album?
I give it a C, more on the C- side. A lot of what you said, I think this album, you could have released it with the previous one, and you wouldn't be able to tell a difference. Mm-hmm. The only song that I kind of liked on here was White Collar, but I wouldn't really add it to a playlist.
See, white people in a bar. It's a white collar bar.
I mean, yeah.
That would have been a better way to explain it than saying a bar full of white people, which now in hindsight, sounds kind of bad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it just...
I mean, it's not. No one's going to cancel us. We have 12 viewers, 6 listeners.
Yeah, right, at this point in time.
I apologize if you're one of the 6 and you're offended by that. But yeah, also, cheers with 2 friends so we can keep going up.
Yeah. I everything that I wrote for all these songs was just kind of like, meh. It was okay, whatever. Nothing stood out, and I just wasn't a fan. I really would like Fastball to create another album, do another album. If it's on the same level as the past 2, though, I'm really not gonna be a fan of it. So overall, for Fastball, what would you give the band?
I mean, I think this is going to be a surprise to anybody. I'm just going to give them a C. It's just, I like their hits, those 4 songs, and I'm probably going to go put Fire Escape and You're an Ocean on my playlist after this. And they're only on there because I've kind of forgot about the songs. But it's just, I'm with a C. And listen to this band kind of showed me that bands that are labeled a one-hit wonder, and we talked about this, they're not really because they had those songs, but they are too at the same way. Mm-hmm. That bands that are labeled a one-hit wonder, are the reason they stay labeled that and never expand into like an all-time band is because I feel like those bands go two ways. You either go where your next album is trying to just recreate that sound you had with your big hit,
What was successful?
and you sell out. Either you were successful because it was funny and your song kind of had a character thing, and so you try to play up to that character, or it was just a weird kind of change of music, and that's what you try to write every song and without really realizing why that song is big.
Yeah.
Or you go the way Fastball did, and you realize that you can always bank on this album. This album's gonna sell. You're gonna get royalties from this. So why don't you just, instead of playing that kind of corporate radio game, you just start writing music that you want to write, right? And you don't try to write hits for radio as much anymore because you had those big hits. Maybe you luck into one, and to me that's kind of what You're an Ocean feels like.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the songs feel like, hey, these guys probably got together and they jammed Beatles songs, and those were big influences. And this band kind of ended up going the way of, let's just make music we want to make. We don't have to really appease anybody. Let's just write empty pop rock songs like the Beatles would write. And I mean, I think those are the two ways you can go if you're a one-hit wonder band. There's no third route, because if you go a third route, you're not a one-hit wonder anymore, are you?
Yeah, you'd be a multi.
Yeah. And that's why I said, like, I think Fastball is a good band. They're a good songwriter, and obviously, they're still picking up fans today, like you, and people still remember their songs. But I feel like they just kind of took their ball and went home. They just kept writing music, but they just kind of rested on their laurels. And there was no risk because they'd already made their money, and they were going to keep making money because those songs are stupidly popular.
Yeah. And
even now, when there's a huge reemergence of nostalgia 90s music,
yep, they will definitely.
They're definitely going to keep going. And those songs almost sound timeless. You can play those on any rock station, adult contemporary station, nostalgic 90s station, one-hit wonder station. I mean, those songs are going to get played. So if you're them and you just want to make music for you, that's where I think they went to.
Yeah.
Again, I think they're a good band, but I just think they could have been great if they would have not rested on their laurels and just maybe took some chances on some of these songs. But I didn't feel like they did that after that album.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you give them?
So I'm kind of stuck between a C and a B. The songs that I really like by Fastball, like I really, really like those songs, I'm not joking when I say that they're almost a daily or at least multi-week listen,
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I would go for a B is because of those songs. I think that they will be in my playlist, till I die. But the reason I would put it to a C is because they have too many albums that are just kind of okay.
Yeah, that are just kind of empty.
Yeah. And if they would have kept making albums like their first two, even in that, or just like that, it might not have been, completely original, but they probably would have had more success.
Yeah, there was more risk taken.
Yeah, because they tried a lot more with their songs. And as you were saying, especially with their most recent 3 albums, it's just really safe.
Mm-hmm.
And not a whole lot stood out, and that's why I would probably just give them a C plus. But I gotta say, when I say that I like those songs, I really like those big songs that they have. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll look forward to what they have next. Hopefully, it's not in the same vein as the past 3 albums, but
would you go see this band in concert?
Probably.
Yeah, I think I'd skip them.
I actually think I mentioned to you last year.
Yeah,
because I was just started hearing like all of their hits, and I was like, man, I want to go see Fastball live.
Yeah, because you're like that, but they're not a band. And I remember looking it up. I'm like,
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, because this is pre-COVID, and I was like, yeah, they have tour dates. What?
Yeah. It's like, what?
But yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up. They're a band. I mean, if you like slower, solid rock songs,
Definitely check them out.
definitely check them out. But I mean, yeah, I think we kind of touched on everything for Fastball related.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I mean, not a band for me, just not genre related.
Yeah.
Outside the beginning, band you really liked for the singles. Rest of the album's kind of lacking.
Yeah.
Next week though,
Next week is a big one.
might be the most lopsided answers we're gonna get here.
Yeah.
And it is one of my favorite bands of all time, and a band, unfortunately, that just broke up. You feel kind of basic though when you're like, "Oh, Daft Punk's one of my favorite bands," but I was listening to one of their albums today, and I was like, "Man," there was a whole other band I wanted to do when we were talking about this, but I was listening to that album today, and I was like, I want to do it. I want to do this.
Yeah,
I wanna
screw
do
the
this
other band.
Yeah, I was like, screw it. I was like, I want to hear his reactions to him. And I know you're not that big of a... I mean, I'm not that big of an electronic music fan. I wouldn't even say I like any other electronic music.
Yeah.
But oh my God, do I love Daft Punk. And I cannot wait to see
Our
the reactions to this one.
Yeah, I was telling Andy when he told me what band he wanted to do, I was like, that's going to be a rough listen for me just because of the genre of music. It's nothing against Daft Punk. But it's definitely not my type of music. So
See, I think it's going to be fun because either you're going to come in and you're just not going to like it that much because you're not big in the genre, or you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
I could be. Yeah.
And I think if it's the first one, it's going to be funny where you're like, I don't like this. And I'm like, it's way out there.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, yeah, this is just kind of... And I'm like, oh, what about this song? This song, and we're touching on it. So, yeah, that's going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to next week.
Yeah, I am too.
So, if you're a big Daft Punk fan or just want to give us a listen, make sure to check in next week. We hit up Daft Punk. And I think that's kind of it for this episode.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. And
Talk to you next week.
Fastball. Bye.